Begin? Okay. So last week we talked about the problem in food, but it stems from farming. What's wrong in farming, and it comes down to the soil and how we treat the soil. And that is really the root, pun intended, there's going to be lots of puns here, of the problem. So today, I wanted to briefly look at, there's so much to talk about, and I really want to make this relevant. And a lot of people were asking, well, what do we do? What do we do? And so let's definitely talk about what practical steps we can take in our lives today to at least begin to navigate this very complex world of food that we find ourselves in today in this generation. Briefly, I'm going to talk about what is food. What does food do when it gets into your body? So we'll talk about the digestive system briefly. And then, what are we supposed to eat? Where are we supposed to shop? What are some things that we should be looking out for? So without any further ado, let me dive in. At the end of the day, corporations are out there that are feeding us today. 99.3% of the time, corporations are feeding us. What is the motivation of corporations? Greed and profit. That is their motivation. Is it purposeful? Well, remember, are they trying to poison us in our food? I'm not going to get into that. At the end of the day, the corporate philosophy, their approach, is they need to make money. And that is all they know. If we continue to patronize corporations, then we are keeping them alive. If we move away from that patronization, then they will not stay alive, or they will change to serve us. Okay, this is on slide number 3 because the slides aren't, you can't see the slides out there online. Love and care of the farmer has been replaced by machinery. So chemicals are used to grow plants, and chemicals are used to feed animals. This slide that I'm showing here is called a CAFO, C-A-F-O. It stands for Concentrated Agricultural Farming Operation. So there's thousands and thousands of, in this particular case, cows in this confined area, and they're being fed something that men made, and they're tied or chained to the fences. I want to ask one question. Is this halal? Is it halal to treat a cow this way? Then is it halal to take from this cow the produce that it produces? I'm just going to leave that out there. We can't turn the other cheek. So much so that there were 750,000 fewer dairy cows in the UK, this is one statistic, compared to 2 decades ago. But we produce more milk today than at any time in the last 25 years. Something to think about. Okay, there's a couple of slides in here that relate to the usage of glyphosate and the incidence of diseases, but I'm going to skip over that because time is a bit short. And let me just jump right into food and what we should be doing. So what is food? Food is a transport mechanism to get nutrients, and actually there's a larger bucket term called essentials into our body. What are essentials? It's just a general term. It's not a scientific name. Essentials are essential trace minerals, essential enzymes, amino acids, the macronutrients like proteins, carbohydrates, vitamins. These are all present in the different types of foods that we eat. And each type of food that we eat, whether it's beef from a cow, or meat of a chicken, or a broccoli plant, or a kale plant, or tomato, they all have a particular ratio that they come with. So broccoli, for instance, has vitamin C, vitamin K1, B9, K, potassium, manganese, iron, and on and on. These ratios are already set. We don't want to change these ratios. These ratios have already been set by nature, by God. And we want to honor these ratios. We don't want to add anything to the soil. We want to eat them. That is, in these perfect ratios, occurs the assimilation of the nutrients into our body. Okay, so let's talk about what's going on in our body when we digest food. Eating actually begins when we think about food. Even before the food lands on our plate, eating the process of digestion begins. For instance, when you smell food or when you think about the biryani that's about to land on your plate, your mouth perhaps begins to water. That is a process of enzymes coming into your mouth to digest and help break down the food when you eat it or when you bite into it. And there's more processes going on. So we eat the food, and I'm just going to talk about 2 or 3 highlights here where I'm showing the digestive system. The second or the next process is mechanical breakdown of the food. When we chew it, and ideally we're chewing it 36 times. That's sort of the scientific number that you were supposed to be chewing it for. So you break it down as much as you can, and then you swallow it, and it enters into your stomach. If you're a healthy person, the stomach is basically almost a nuclear reactor. The food is pulverized in your stomach. It is a very acidic environment. The pH of your stomach is around between 1 and 3. If it's any higher than that, then things are going to go wrong. After this, it kind of hangs out in the stomach for a couple of hours. Then the food exits the stomach, and before it gets into the small intestine, it is then showered by bile to make it alkaline. So it's literally a shower to increase the pH of the food. If it didn't do that, the body would see it as, it would react to it with diarrhea. So the liver and the gallbladder, 2 very important functioning organs, shower in different ways that food coming out of the stomach with this alkaline, and then it enters into the small intestine. When it enters into the small intestine, that is where it's now broken down in such a way that the nutrients from the food are beginning to get extracted into the bloodstream, into the superhighway of our body, and then they're sent to each and every part of our body to give us energy and enter into our cells. So that's digestion. Okay. Now, a couple of examples. So there's a number of physical things that we experience on a daily basis. Sometimes we experience tiredness, brain drowsiness from what we ate. Perhaps we feel not as sharp as we think we should be. And sometimes many of us attribute that to getting older. I'm here to tell you that that's not the case. You can still, as you get older, maintain your look into your 30s, 40s, 50s. If you're in your 70s, you can still maintain your well-being as if you were in your 30s, 40s, or 50s. I feel like I'm 25 right now. I have more energy at now, double the age of 25, than I had at 25 because of the way I eat. So let's just go through a couple of examples. If you feel bloated, and these are, I'm not a doctor, and I don't pretend to be a doctor, and these are not categorical, but these are areas that you can look into if you feel a certain way. I'm just going to talk just 3 or 4 examples just to give you an idea, just to give you a feeling or a sense of being in touch with your own body, which is so important. If you feel bloated, it's most likely a stomach acid issue. The stomach isn't acidic enough. The acid is probably too high. If you get acid reflux, don't take Tums. You're actually supposed to take more acid. Apple cider vinegar, which you've heard of, is probably a good example. Maybe even some lemons. If you get diarrhea, as I mentioned earlier, it means, or your stool is light-colored, it's most likely a bile issue. If you've lost your gallbladder, then that complicates things, but it doesn't make it impossible. If you're nauseous, it just means that the food is not being digested and toxicity is entering into your bloodstream and your body's reacting. So these are telltale signs that your body is giving you that you want to pay attention to. And again, a lot of this is because of digestion. So now let's get into the meat of the matter here. What should you do now? What should you avoid and what should you eat? So I'm sure we've all heard that we should avoid seed oils. Well, what are seed oils? It is all the oils in our food that we get in the Desi restaurants and the Middle Eastern restaurants. There is not a single one that I know of, and I've hunted around all over Austin and some parts of Houston. Every single one of them uses some sort of a vegetable oil, corn oil, mazola oil, this oil or that oil. They are all bad. They're all toxic. They are the key reason we have cancers. They're the key reasons we have all the ailments that we see, the chronic issues that we've seen in the world, including diabetes, including heart disease, and all of the above. Instead, you want to use, so I'll go one this side, no, and then yes on the other side. You should be having organic, non-refined olive oils, coconut oils, or ghee, organic ghee. In terms of eggs, a huge part of our diets, there's about 7 different categories of eggs that you will find on your store shelves. You want to eat only pasture-raised organic eggs. I buy my eggs at a farmer's market. I know who my farmer is. He does not label them as organic, but he tells me how he raises them, and he raises them on a pasture, and he tells me what he feeds his chickens, and he treats them humanely. Those are the eggs that I eat. And when you crack that egg open, next time if I have the opportunity to show you, I'll show you how orange the yolk is. It's absolutely incredible. The other eggs just make me absolutely sick. Now, in terms of breads and grains, which is a huge staple of our diet, without a Middle Eastern or a Pakistani meal, having grains or breads, it's just not a meal. So there's only one type of bread that I eat, and that's an organic fermented sourdough. It brings me back to my days when I used to visit Pakistan. When I ate the bread there, it has a sour taste to it. It is absolutely incredibly tasty. And in England, over here, the bread is completely destroyed. But there's a movement going on Facebook, believe it or not, in Facebook Marketplace, where you just type in the Facebook Marketplace, type in organic fermented sourdough, and you'll find up a whole bunch of people that are making around you here in Austin bread at home, and you can just go and buy it. And I buy mine from a farmer's market in Mueller. Now, in terms of meats, hope I'm going fast enough here. In terms of meats, we should be for beef, lamb, and goats, we should be only eating grass-fed, grass-finished. A lot of people say grass-fed. It's a mislabeled. It doesn't mean it's healthy. 75+% of the time, grass-fed is allowed to be fed grains as their diet. If it's grass-finished, then 365 days a year, that cow is eating, or that animal is eating grass every single day. And you have to make sure also that, again, this is complicated, is the grass non-GMO grass? Is it being treated well in the pasture? We should be avoiding fast fried foods. Sure, you can fry your food, but fry it in ghee, fry it in butter, heavy on the fat. Do not avoid fat, and I'll talk about that in a second also. Don't eat any non-organic, non-whole foods. This is just a general rule. When you eat these whole foods, like peppers or broccolis of the world, we love to cook them till they're completely annihilated. No problem if you want to cook it, but every now and then, try to introduce steams or baking to maintain the enzymatic nature of that food. The enzymes are so important. Now, one of the biggest unsung culprit, which we tend to ignore, are the spices. Spices are a huge part of our diets. And the spices that are in Desi and Indian stores are largely irradiated if they're not organic. Irradiation means that they heat them. Again, when you heat food, you're basically destroying the enzymes in the food, and you're destroying any benefit that your body is going to get from, say, cloves, for instance. Low-fat anything is bad for you. Don't eat. Anything that's rendered low-fat milk, low-fat cottage cheese, low-fat this, low-fat that, they usually treat it in such a way, and then you'll find some other ingredients in there that are offensive to our bodies. And the last thing, this list is by no means complete, but I try to encapsulate it so it's relatively full, so that you have something that you can do right now. Never eat farm-raised fish. Farm fish is a wild being. It's supposed to swim free. Nowadays, I would say 70 to 90% of the fish that we find in the stores and in restaurants is farm-raised. Farm-raised fish, most likely salmon, is found with sea lice in it. That is absolutely disgusting. Why would you have something like that? Not to mention they're pumping it with hormones, and they're pumping it with food that people made. They say, oh yeah, we're going to give them an omega-3 rich diet because it's good for humans. Yeah, we need omega-3, but we don't need it from there. Okay, so just a word on fat. Butterfat is absolutely necessary for us. We've gotten into this sort of phase of having low fat. It's necessary for growth and preservation of our health. So as we get older, if we're not eating fats, this is the key. The vitamins in fats are key to sustain our good health. Saturated fats are healthy, and we must switch away from trans fats to saturated fats. And I will leave a link for you in the YouTube video. There's a 45-minute lecture on why trans fats are incredibly important. I'll give you an example. There's a tribe in Tanzania. If you look at them, they're perfectly healthy. They're slim, and they look amazing. They have a 3,000 calorie per day diet. 66% of their diet is animal fat. 17% is just carbs, and only 1.7% is omega-6. The oils that we eat bring the omega-6 ratio up to, if my memory serves me correctly, between 20 to 40%. So it's topsy-turvy. We have more omega-6s in our diets than omega-3s. Okay, so now let's talk about some ingredients that we should be avoiding. Natural flavors is one of the most common ingredients found in so many different things, including organic food. When I have natural flavors, like a Coke, for instance, which is very rare, but I have had it, every time I have it, I can't wake up the next morning reliably, fresh. I wake up drowsy. I wake up with brain fog. Natural flavors also, it's like a cesspool. It's just a bucket that we don't know what they're throwing into it, and the FDA and the Canadian agencies allow you to throw in ingredients that don't change food, they just change the taste of it, and that's why they call it natural flavors. There's another ingredient called maltodextrin, which is 20 times more powerful than sugar. When a food is labeled pure, all natural, or fresh, or even halal, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's good for you. In fact, if they're labeled that way, not the halal part, it's almost guaranteed, pure, all natural, fresh, it's almost guaranteed to have been sprayed with pesticides. You want to go with organic. Generally, anything that cannot be pronounced should be avoided. Now, there's a big label out there which says non-GMO, just by itself on a lot of the foods. Non-GMO does not mean it hasn't been sprayed with pesticides. So it should still be organic. Preferably the sequence is 100% organic, then organic. The bread should be fermented. You want to grab whole organic foods when you can. And again, another equally important thing that you should be doing is drinking good water, not in plastic bottles. Bring your own water, get it from the stores. Whole Foods has it. Wheatsville has it. Natural Grocers has it. Sprouts does not have water, but you can fill up a large 2.2 gallon jug and bring that home with you, or buy a water filter. I'm just going to mention this. We should also be mindful of these things are making us sick. Chlorine cleaners in our bathrooms, in the restaurants, in our homes, the Glade plug-in odor fighters, or whatever you want to call them. They're extremely toxic, and they've been found to be carcinogenic, including our clothes. Nowadays, the clothes are coming in with the polyesters and the rayons and the viscose linens are coming in with various synthetics and plastics. There's plastics all around us, and we need to be mindful of what purchases we're making. I'm not wearing my, I'm wearing, glasses to be able to read. I'm not wearing my blue light blocking glasses, but after sundown, I usually put on blue light blocking sunglasses because white light can create sleep disorders. Okay, so now in terms of shopping and where should we shop? I know that a large part of this crowd is a huge Costco or a Walmart shopper. Again, I will say that when Walmart goes to a small farmer and asks them for 1,000 or 10,000 heads of lettuces, what do you think the small farmer will do? The small farmers can't supply them. I think Costco is doing a better job, but their organic is to the T the definition that the FDA sets. And the FDA says that if a food is 70% organic, then it's allowed to be labeled as organic. So the other stuff can be chemicals. And that's an issue. There's some things called organic fertilizers. Again, this creates an imbalance in the soil. Everything is connected. If we decide that we're going to continue to shop at these and patronize these stores, then we're making a statement that we don't want the small farmers anymore. So in order, I put this in order as much as I could, we want to go to farmers markets. There's a farmers market at Mueller. There's a farmers market in Guadalupe. I know there's like 4 or 5 farmers markets. I'm sure there's several farmers markets around the Cedar Park area, which is where this masjid is. Natural Grocers is another excellent store. Then Sprouts. But these are not silver bullets. A silver bullet is basically, you just go in there and blindly just buy whatever you want. No, there's still some places there, still many foods there that are artificial, and you want to be careful about that. So if in doubt, ask. Now, I make mention of Crescent because a lot of people patronize Crescent Whole Foods. And apparently they have grass-fed beef. And I think this needs to be confirmed. They even have grass-finished beef. And lamb. I don't think they have goat. Their chicken is fed a GMO feed. So just so you know, that is, okay. That needs to be confirmed. That's confirmed. Okay, I have 2 main things to say. I'll just give you a couple of quick rules here. Eat your food in order. Fiber first, then protein, and then carb. Protein/fat, and then your carb. The ratio should be 3-2-1. The last thing I'm going to say is, as you know, I mentioned that I'm in the organic food growing business. Our masjids are a perfect example and a setup to serve community. We can actually grow food here as a CSA. A CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. We can literally carve out a small space in the corner of a masjid, notwithstanding growing outside. We can grow outside, but we do experience Texas climate, a non-growing season. But we can start growing year-round, and we can start selling these microgreens. This area contains such a level of income that the residents in this neighborhood will purchase microgreens, and they pay top dollar for it. We could literally set up a farmer's market stand here selling microgreens, and I can absolutely help you and teach you how to do that if you're willing to do that. And I'm just going to leave it here. Thank you very much.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. الله أكبر الله أكبر. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله. أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله. أشهد أن